All right, today we're going to look at if, else if, and else statements. And a good example of when to use an if, else statement is with the game Paper, Rock, Scissors. This is a game where the player and the opponent each choose a paper, rock, or scissors at the same time. They're compared, and either it's a tie, or the user wins, or the computer wins. I'm going to be asking people for numbers, and so I'm going to go ahead and create a little code here. And I'm going to create a variable called r, and I'm going to give it the value of 1. And I've capitalized r because it's a constant and it's not going to change throughout the game. I'll put a little note to myself that r equals rock. And I'll do the same thing for paper. And by the way, instead of starting at 1, I'm going to start at 0. And so P equals paper, and S is going to equal scissors. So this will make it easier, so I won't have to remember which numbers are which. I can just write RPS in my logic. I'm also going to create an integer called U. This is not a constant. This will change, and this is the user's guess, or the user's choice. And then we'll do an int c, and that is the computer's choice. All right, I've got a scanner object already. I've got a random object already created, and I printed out 1 for paper, 2 for rock, 3 for scissors. I'm going to change that. I'll make it 0. I should say 0 for rock. 2 for paper, and 3 for scissors. I'll get the user's input. So I've already got a place for that. That's the U variable. And I'll set that equal to my scanner, or my scan, nextInt. So that goes to the keyboard. It gets the next integer that's typed in, and then it'll fill that variable, which is my user's guess. And then the computer will have its guess as well. It's going to use the myRand object, and it's going to get the nextInt from the random object. Okay, so now the user has chosen and the computer has chosen. Now we've got to set up the if, else statement. And so in the paper, rock, scissors, we have 3 outcomes. It's either a tie, the user wins, or the computer wins. The basic structure of the if-else is if certain conditions are true within the parentheses, execute the code within the curly brackets. Else if the conditions are true within these parentheses, execute the code that's within those curly brackets. And if none of those are true, then let's go ahead and execute what's in the last curly brackets. So the else is our default option, and before it'll execute an if, the conditions have to be true in here. Otherwise, it'll look at the other else if statements to see if there's conditions in there that are true. If none of the conditions are true, then it goes to the last one. So the easiest thing to do here is to check for a tie. So I'm going to put it up here. And the way we check for the tie is if the user's choice is the same as the computer's choice. And so here we have the comparison operator, 2 equal signs. That allows us to compare 2 numbers to see if they are the same. If they are, then we'll execute the tie code. The next thing we want to do is we want to check to see if the user won. Now, to check if the user won, there's several different conditions that could exist. In fact, there's 3 different conditions that could exist. One condition is that the user chooses rock, oops, and the computer chooses scissors. So if the user chooses rock and the computer chooses scissors, then that is victory for the user. If the user chooses scissors and the computer chooses paper, that's also a user victory. And if the user chooses paper and the computer chooses rock. So these are the three different possibilities that will lead to the user winning. And what we can do is, you can see that I'm checking both conditions at once by putting two ampersands. That's a Boolean expression. It means and I really need to surround this statement with some parentheses so that these statements will be evaluated together from the inside out. And then, since any one of these conditions will work, I'm going to put or symbols between them. And the or symbol is the symbol right above the enter sign. I have to hold shift to hold it down. And there's or. Notice I've still got this parenthesis down here at the end. So the whole thing is circulated in the if parentheses. Put a little white space there. So what I'm saying is that if the user has rock and the computer has scissors, or the user has scissors and the computer has paper, or the user has paper and the computer has rock, then that will return true, and then we'll execute the user wins code here. Now, if it's not a tie and the user did not win, then we can assume that the user lost and that the computer won. So I don't have to put any kind of checks down here, since there's only three outcomes. Now, of course, I'm going to put some things out. I'm going to say System.out.println is a tie, or System.println user wins, or you win, and our last computer wins, in order to end this. But this is a good example of how to use if, else,